and welcome to GameSack. This time we're taking a look at some games that we feel really need an HD makeover, whether it's like an HD remaster or a remake or what have you.
And this is going to be a good one because I know personally I have a huge laundry list of games that I would love to see remade or remastered or whatever. Just brought out again with awesome high definition graphics and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so let's just get into it. It should be a no-brainer by now that both Shenmue 1 and 2 need a modern HD makeover. These games were originally released on the Sega Dreamcast, which I'm playing them on here, but Part 2 also showed up on the Xbox. Simply put, it's a tale of getting revenge, but you get to have a lot of fun adventures along the way. Honestly though, this game is mostly a time-passing simulator. That's right, it's basically Sega's Animal Crossing, except that it's nothing like Animal Crossing. But you do get to do fun stuff outside of the main adventure. I mean, hell, this darts game here is so damn fun it almost makes the whole revenge thing seem like a bother.
Yeah, that's the way.
Yeah, you get to wander around and ask people and find clues about what's going on and all that fun stuff. And it is fun.
Afraid I won't be able to help you. Ask someone in town.
I understand.
Or you can even chase stupid little kids. And of course, you can get into fights to show people who's boss. There's also the QuickTime events that people tend to either love or hate. And it's a good thing I enjoy them, I guess. This is one of those games that if someone doesn't like it, they're gonna make absolutely sure that you know that they don't. Because if they don't like it, they don't want you or anyone else having fun with it. But speaking personally, as you may or may not know, it's absolutely one of my favorite games of all time. And with Shenmue 3 on the way, an HD version of this game would go a long way because there are a ton of people who have never had a chance to play this and they don't really have the means to play the original versions here. And I'll be honest, I'd be happy with a simple HD remaster reusing all of the existing assets, just rendering it all in widescreen at a high resolution and a higher frame rate. I mean, beggars can't be choosers, and I'll take what I can get, and my happy ass would absolutely pay full price on day one. But if I could have a wish list, then I'd like to see more of a remake or at least a rebuild of sorts, with more polygons so that they don't look so janky, higher resolution textures, cleaner audio samples with full dynamic range to all the sound, and more people wandering around while fixing the draw distance issues.
I'm not interested in boys. Sorry.
And hell, if I'm really reaching for the stars, how about letting us play that short chapter that takes place on the boat over to China that happens between the first two games? Yeah, I realize I'm asking for a lot, but hey, I can dream, right? And of course, no matter what happens, both games need to be on the same disc, which honestly shouldn't be an issue. We make GameStack a couple of months in advance, so I hope by the time this video is released, an announcement about Shenmue 1 and 2 HD will have been made. If not, well, I hope it happens soon. I mean, why pass time in real life when you can instead pass simulated time? In HD! Give me Shenmue 1 and 2 HD, damn it!
I must avenge my father's murder. Father, I promise to avenge you. I must do something. I'll avenge my father's murder on my own. I'm going to have to do this by myself. Suppose your father was murdered, what would you do? I will have my revenge. Oh yeah. I've made up my mind. I need to do this. I will avenge my father's death. That's all I can do. You win a prize! For my father.
When Joe first proposed the idea for this episode, the Jumping Flash series were the first games that came into my mind. I've always hated that the series came and died on the original PlayStation, just because of the fact that I love playing these games so much. There's 3 games in the series, but the third was a Japan exclusive. And before you comment, yes, I'm aware of the Pocket Mumu game that lets you collect and play mini-games on the Pocket Station that I don't own. As you may remember from my review of these titles, Jumping Flash is a first-person platforming game. You run around decently sized levels collecting various items and then you move on to the next one. It's a simple premise and the execution of the game is perfect. Your robot rabbit named Robbit can do this double jump thing that gets you sky high, and I always love the sense of height that I felt when I did these jumps. The first 2 titles are set up and play almost identically to each other. Each world within the games contains 2 levels and a boss fight. After that, you move on to the next world and do it all over again. The third game takes place after you've defeated all the bad guys and you're doing mundane errands for people instead. These games should be a no-brainer for Sony to do an HD remaster. Of course, all three could easily fit onto a single disc. But most importantly, don't mess around with the control, and I can't stress it enough as it's perfect the way it is. I want the games to play exactly the same way as the originals. Now if they wanted, they could add some new worlds just as long as they don't mess around with what's already there. Maybe just add a world or two at the end of the game to lengthen the experience. So the levels need to stay the same, but they can go ahead and redesign enemies and bosses to look better. Obviously more polygons with high-res textures and a lot more animation. Oh, and I guess they could make the enemy AI a little bit smarter. For the most part, the games are a cakewalk and a little difficulty tweak would be alright. The same goes with each level. I want to see better looking structures and 60 frames per second, which should be easy. The first games had a decent draw distance, but you couldn't see from one side of a level to the other. This could easily be fixed now, and it would be great to be able to see everything that the level contains. And since I've recently gotten a PlayStation VR, a VR mode would also be a must. If you've played VR, then you know that this game is a natural fit. The sensation of doing a double jump and getting those high altitudes would be really cool, although it might be a bit nauseating. As far as music and sound effects go, just leave them the way they are. They're fine, and I've grown so accustomed to them that I wouldn't know what to do if those changed. And lastly, they could leave the original games on the disc to be unlocked after beating the remasters. The original developer, Exact, was rolled into Sony Interactive Entertainment, and I'm not sure if any of the original team still exists. I can't be the only one who wants this.
Yummy.
All right.
How about some Grandia from Game Arts? This came out in 1997 for the Saturn and 2 years later on the PlayStation. I've only played the Saturn version, and as such you can probably guess that's what I'm playing here. Hell, it outsold the PlayStation version. Even with the Japanese text and a very limited English online walkthrough that was available at the time, I still had lots of fun back in the day. Unfortunately, the online guides these days aren't much better. There's a lot of boring nonsense that you need to go through even to get out of the first town, and it's a royal pain if you don't speak Japanese, even with a guide. I'd really love a translation patch for this one. Like I said, I've never bothered playing with the English PlayStation version. The game I did play a lot was Grandia 2 on the Dreamcast, which is the best-selling version of the game. This one focuses on Ryudo and the special friends he makes as they go around saving the world and stuff. You can definitely see the original game's roots here, and it plays pretty damn well. The battle system is nice, though once you get multiple party members it can seem a little chaotic at times. The graphics are really good, and the music is once again fantastic. Some of the battle spells are really cool, but honestly they lose their appeal after you've had to sit through them for the 212th time. They really do slow down the pacing and make the battles take longer than they should. But hey, you gotta pad that playtime so the kids think they're getting more value for their buck, right? The World did get a remaster of this game on Steam not long ago in 2015. It looks fairly pleasant, but it's still only 4:3, which is of course unacceptable. You can stretch it to 16:9 if you want, but that's even less acceptable. I want to see a proper widescreen version of this game with 1080p graphics and, if I can, new textures and more polygons. The battles in this game have a hard time containing themselves to a 4:3 screen, so I think that the game being in widescreen would really help to see everything in the battles. Grandia 3, which was released in 2005 on the PlayStation 2, should be included as well. The game takes place in a world which doesn't really feel much like the previous games, but that doesn't mean it's bad. You are an aspiring pilot, and you team up with your mom and a girl that you both find to help save the world and all that nonsense. And by the way, did his mom have him when she was like 6? The battle system is largely the same, with the meters moved around to different places and of course a few new abilities. Compared to the previous games, this one feels fairly fast and smooth. The battles are a bit more fun in my opinion, though it still can be a bit chaotic with characters running off the screen. Again, I feel widescreen would help, as would all of the other HD amenities. And they only need to worry about these three. They don't need to put Grandia Extreme on there, though if they did, I probably wouldn't complain.
That was pitiful. Come back when you learn how to fight.
Here's Gauntlet Dark Legacy, developed and released by Midway in 2001. I'm playing the PlayStation 2 version here, but it was released on all home consoles at the time and even the Game Boy Advance. This title holds true to the Gauntlet formula. You pick one of 8 possible character classes and then off you go to battle hordes of enemies. Of course this game had no online feature, but it did offer up to 4 players at once in the same room. And you'll need a multi-tap for more than 2 players on the PS2 here. The game boasts 8 worlds with 5 decently long levels in each. The graphics are on par for the time. The characters and enemies are ugly as hell to look at with low polygon counts and lots of sharp edges. All of the background structures are also built with low polygons and repeated textures, and this was fine for back then. The enemies have decent AI, but when they're stuck behind something, they still continue to try and walk towards you, which keeps the realism factor to a minimum. I love this game for all the Gauntlet nostalgia, like when you pick up food, your character says something in his best medieval voice.
Sweet nutrients, sweet nutrients.
There's lots of hidden treasures and items here to find all over each board. I like all the switches that send you back and forth in the level to open up the path or reveal some crystals. And of course all the keys that you need to collect to unlock treasure chests and doors. There's also tons of potions to collect here which will help you defeat enemies in a tight spot. Or you can use them to kill death. Yes, that dumb bastard is in the game, but luckily he's not as tough as before. One of the huge parts of this game for me was the music. The majority of it has this really great medieval melodies that just fit the game perfectly. I love it! This would be an amazing game to get an HD remaster or a remake. For starters, the first thing that I'd like to see is an upgraded camera system. Bring it out a bit so we can actually see more of the level. I'd also have them brighten everything up a bit. Yes, I know it's called Dark Legacy, but the levels are pretty darn dark and they could use a bit more light. And of course, all the characters, enemies, and structures need to be updated with more polygons and higher res textures. Everything could use more detail. And since modern systems are all about online gaming, why not add online functionality? I still think 4 people on a quest is enough. Otherwise it would cause a lot of chaos. But also leave in local multiplayer in case I have a friend come over and I want to show off this game. The music I wouldn't touch. It literally is perfect for the game, and the only thing I'd like is maybe pump it in surround. I want all of my speakers bathing me in its sound. Sadly, I never hear anything about this game online or even between my friends, but I love it and I'd hate to see it forgotten as it's really fun. Come on Midway, remaster this puppy, it needs it.
Reflective shot.
Alright, we're about halfway done, and like I said, I really hope that by now Shenmue HD has been announced. I mean, I really hope it has. If not, again, hope it's coming soon.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, that would just be beyond silly not to make those games over again.
It totally would.
Yeah.
And with that said, let's get into some more games we feel need to be remade in HD. Skies of Arcadia from Sega on the Dreamcast is one that a lot of people have fond memories of. It was also on the GameCube. This game depicts a world where ships sail in the sky and not the sea. Even towns and cities float on large islands in the air. What a very strange world this is, but hey, it's a video game, so that's okay. You're Vice, and you run a ragtag group of vampires. Well, you don't actually run them, but basically you do now. I won't bore you with all the story details. If you want to know more about the story, then hell, just play the game. But it's pretty cool and it has a decently large cult following for good reason. You fly around in your ship exploring and you get into random battles. You have lots of options in these battles, from your regular attack, defend, use of items, and running away. But some characters can use what are called S moves, which are hyper strong and extra long attacks. Of course, to use these you must first build up a gauge by attacking in some other way or by focusing. The magic is also pretty robust, as you have different kinds of jewels that can do different things both against your enemies or to help you recover. The battles are fun, but my main complaint is that they seem to run a little slow and sometimes they just sit there and hesitate. There's also areas where you can disembark from your ship and explore. These include towns that have shops where you can buy stuff, talk to people, and all that jazz. Dungeons exist in this fashion as well, and you need to traverse them on foot. And surprise, surprise, you'll also get into random battles here. Visually, the game is good with a bright color palette in most locations, though a lot of the character models could use a few more polygons, maybe several more. The music is decent and it doesn't disappoint, but other than that, it's just kinda there, it won't blow you away. This is another RPG for the Dreamcast that's never been heard from since the GameCube days other than a couple of character cameos here and there like those in Valkyria Chronicles. That doesn't really count though. I'd really like to see an HD remake of this one that not only provides the obligatory higher resolution, 16:9 aspect ratio, higher frame rate character models with more polygons, 7.1 surround sound, and an online capture the flag mode that everyone craves, but improved gameplay features as well. I'd like to see an option to speed up the battles or at the very least to make them feel more responsive. I'd like to maybe see a better map screen. And of course, loot boxes would really enhance this game tenfold. We need some of that up in here for sure. I feel that I might be the first actual gamer to ever utter those words. It's a good thing I don't mean them. Oh, and for a game called Skies of Arcadia, there is a depressing lack of arcade games here. I think an HD revisit to this game should have arcade games all over the skies. That's right, stop the title from being a lie, damn it.
This should work.
The Metroid Prime trilogy were always games I felt would be pretty awesome in true HD. The first two games were on the GameCube and took the series into a new area that made a lot of people very nervous until they actually played it. That's right, Metroid was now a first-person 3D game, a huge departure from its traditional side-scrolling 2D action. But I feel that Retro Studios did an amazing job with the franchise. I'm playing the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Wii here, which has all three games on one disc. Here, the first two get a slight upgrade into widescreen and are also given some motion controls to make them play more like Metroid Prime 3, which was designed specifically for the Wii. This is nice, I guess, but it certainly isn't as good as I think it could be. Anyway, I love these games mainly because of the atmosphere. You feel so alone a lot of the time, and figuring out what to do next is always fun. And in order to do that, you need to scan as many things as you can. I love this. I scanned everything I could if I wasn't under attack. Scanning some things doesn't do anything other than give you useless information on the item. But scanning other items can open pathways and activate things that need to be activated, or even expand a bit on the story. But of course that's not all that you do. There's plenty of action here, and it's always really fun shooting down your enemies, or rolling around as a morph ball to find new areas. The visuals worked for the time, and the minimalist music really added to the experience for me. With Metroid Prime 4 coming out, I would love to see all three Metroid Prime games get an HD upgrade on the Switch. The visuals would be fantastic, especially if they remade them with more polygons and better textures. The games already ran at 60 frames per second to begin with, and the music is already plenty fine. But they could add some surround sound effects since the Switch can do that. And of course, some kind of online play would be great. However, one thing I'd really like them to do is make the motion controls optional and not required. Yeah, the Switch has motion controls, but I really think the gimmick has worn out its welcome. We know these games can be played without them because they worked fine on the GameCube controller. If there needs to be motion controls, then please just make them optional, and preferably not the default option. Whether this comes out before or after Metroid Prime 4 doesn't matter. It would sell extremely well, and Nintendo definitely needs to make this happen.
Wave Race 64 is a game that absolutely, desperately needs an HD makeover. This early Nintendo 64 game was and still is an absolute blast to play. Riding these jet skis around the various courses felt real, and the gameplay holds up quite well today. It's really very simple, just race your jet ski around, slalom the buoys on the correct sides, and don't lose. Everything about this one is just so damn fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, the music is happy, and the game just wants you to enjoy yourself. Even the announcer is super excited for you, and it only makes the game more enjoyable. Since the Nintendo 64 is the exact polar opposite of high definition by several margins, the upgrade to this game would be nothing short of mind-blowing. I mean, just imagine this on the Switch. They could add in the rumble that was in the Japanese re-release of the N64 version, but let's not forget that the Switch has HD rumble. That's right, even the rumble pack can get an HD remaster. Of course, the visuals would be fantastic, and they might as well throw in online play too, because people who aren't me seem to enjoy that. I feel that great care must be taken with the music though, as you don't want to change the character or the mood with some sort of weird arrangement. To the musician who could potentially redo this, don't put your own personal flair to it. It doesn't need that, just make it sound better. Thanks.
Move on to the next round.
That's right, Nintendo might as well include an upgraded Wave Race Blue Storm on the card as well. This GameCube launch title is fantastic in its own right with much improved graphics. Sure, it doesn't have the same charm as the N64 game, and I think a lot of that has to do with the music and the announcers. It's also slightly harder to control, but don't get me wrong, it's still a blast. This would also benefit greatly from an HD makeover, and it'd be awesome to have everything on the same card. And no need to remake the Game Boy original. F that game, it can stay right where it is, just do the other two. Just imagine playing all of the different tracks with that superb Switch Pro controller. Nintendo produced HD remakes of some of the Zeldas, and hey, Wave Race is right up there, so why not? That's right, why not an HD remake of two great games that are easy to pick up and play and don't require hours of investment to enjoy? I think I'm not the only person on the planet that would be excited for this. Hell, judging how my Twitter feed loves any and everything Nintendo does no matter what it does, it's safe to say that this would sell quite well. Make it happen, Nintendo. Don't be lame.
Right. That's right. Way to go. You just earned a turbo.
Shinobi from Sega really needs some form of HD treatment. No, not the original, but the 3D one that appeared on the PlayStation 2 here. I always felt that Shinobi made a good transition from 2D to 3D with this title. It's a very fast-paced game that really makes you feel like an agile ninja. I love running around with your long scarf flowing behind you. I'm sure that never gets in the way. The gameplay mainly consists of being stuck in a small area. Defeating a certain number of enemies or floating things will unlock the next area and then you'll move on. Pretty simple stuff, but very fun in execution. When enemies appear, icons will show up in the upper right of the screen indicating their presence. When you slash one up, an icon will light up. If you can slash up all of the enemies and light all the icons in a short amount of time, you'll get a cool death scene. That's right, all of the enemies wait for you to slash up their friends before they fall into bloody pieces. They're so considerate. I don't know why, but I've always loved that. The game also featured double jumping, dashing, and even shuriken throwing. Oh, and let's not forget about the wall running, which is super fun to do. The action always keeps you on your toes and somehow it never gets boring. Top it all off with some excellent music and you have a great game that hardly anyone even thinks about anymore. But I feel a lot of people would think about it if it got released in HD. The original here only runs in 480i and 4:3. Imagine a true widescreen presentation with super sharp graphics and hell, maybe even an improved camera. That was probably my biggest gripe with this game, but you know what? Hell, that was 15 years ago. They didn't know what they were doing with the camera. They might as well have it run in 4K on the professional systems out there just for fun with HDR all at the same time. I don't know if my brain could even handle that. It might be too good! Oh, and Sega, you might want to throw in Nightshade on the disc too. This is the sequel to Shinobi that hardly anyone knows about and fewer people ever mention. Yeah, it's not quite as good as the original, but it plays the same and is still really fun. And it would be a great addition to an HD Shinobi package, preferably on the PlayStation 4, because you know what? I really like the PlayStation 4.
Ashes to ashes.
Alright, and there you go. Those are some games that we feel personally need to be remade in HD, and it's absolutely stupid if these companies don't do it.
Yeah, well, speaking of companies, are you guys listening out there? Make this happen. We would buy them. Everybody would buy them. They're awesome games. So let's just redo them again.
Everyone would buy them.
Everyone.
Every single person. And what games would you guys like to see remade in HD? Let us know down in the comments or, on Twitter, whatever the hell you do. And in the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack.
Hey, Joe, what are you doing?
Well, Dave, I've got Green Dog here, and I want to play it on my sweet new HD TV. However, Green Dog is a standard definition game, and it doesn't work very well with my sweet new HD TV. Dave, I need Green Dog remade in HD.
Do you realize what you're saying? Green Dog in HD?
Yeah, Green Dog!
Wouldn't you rather play something like Musha in HD? That would be so much better.
Musha, huh? Nah, Musha ain't Green Dog, man.
Joe, I like you and all, but I gotta do this. You're an idiot! You're so stupid! You wanna play Green Dog in HD? Are you thinking about what you're saying? Think, man, think! Oh!